Mindy Totten at bodyworkmastery.com, and today we're going to continue our series on the cranial bones, and we're going to talk about the occiput today. So I'll show you where the occiput is, do a couple of quick review things, and then I'm going to show you maybe something that you haven't thought of before that I found really helpful for me when working with the occiput. Okay, so first of all, here is the jester. He is looking good for as old as he is, right? If you're looking straight on at the jester, at the cranium, to find the occiput, you simply tip the cranium up, and this green bone at the bottom, right down here, this is the occiput. The most significant thing that stands out about the occiput when you're looking at it, of course, is the foramen magnum, and that's this big hole here. And this is, remember, where the dural tube, it's an attachment of the dural tube. So if you have the person laying on the table, they're like this, think of their occiput as one of the handles to the dural tube, which goes all the way down, of course, down to the bottom of the spine and attaches again at S2. One of the, I was going to say, one of the mistakes that folks make, but we're not going to go through their 5 steps to the occipital cranial base release, which is a very common technique in craniosacral therapy. We're not going to go through all those steps because that's a little too advanced to do just in a video. But I did want to offer you a tip for the last part, the 5th step of the occipital cranial base release, which is using the occiput to traction the dural tube. So I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but I remember when I was first taking craniosacral therapy, and I would, go into the classes and stuff, and I would see an instructor and they would say, they have their hands at the head, and they'd say, okay, there's a restriction at, C7 and T3, and, and I was kind of like, one eyebrow arched up, right? I was like, yeah, you're feeling those restrictions from there? That was the first thing I did, like kind of not too sure about that. And then, of course, the second thing I did was I want to be able to do that. So I don't know where I first found this out, where the first person who told me about it, I can't remember, but I did it for a long time, and it really, really helped me practice to be able to feel restrictions in the dural tube, and now I can do that as well. So it's pretty cool. So take a bone model of the occiput, mine's green in this case, and take some saran wrap and do your best to attach it to the foramen magnum of the occiput. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course. You're just going to, this is just a little practice thing. And then if you can attach the other end to a sacrum model. So I'm going to have this on the table here. This is the sacrum. It's kind of off the camera here, down at the end, and then dural tube coming up, and then I'm at the head of the table. We'll do it this way. I'm at the head of the table, and I'm holding on to the person's occiput. Okay, so a mistake that a lot of folks make is when your hands are, for this last step of the occipital cranial base release, when your hands are at the occiput and you're tractioning the dural tube, you want to make sure that your hands are only on the occiput as much as possible. You don't want to cradle the whole head and have your hands on the temporal bones as well, because as you traction, that gentle traction towards yourself, superior, you don't want to be pulling in the rest of the cranium as well. So with your intention and careful hand placement, you have your hands underneath the occiput, and then what I do, a couple things, is rather than traction this way, I just get my hands settled, and then I let my body lean slightly back. And once I start to lean back, I can feel that in my hands as well, and then I can feel the dural tube starting to mobilize, and then I can follow it down the spine, feeling for where there are restrictions. So that's the first thing. Make sure that your fingers are only on the occiput as much as possible. Then, if you want to do this this other little goodie of mine, this practice tidbit, you've got your saran wrap in place of your dural tube, you've got your occiput here, and then what I do is close my eyes and have my husband or someone I'm working with take a quarter and put it someplace on the dural tube, on the saran wrap, right? So they put it down here. And then my eyes are closed, and I lean back very gently and take the slack out of the dural tube, and then I started practicing feeling where there was that restriction. The quarter, of course, represents the restriction. And if you want to get really super duper advanced, once you get a sense of that, yeah, it's further down the spine or it's closer to the head, you can take a couple of quarters or a dime or a nickel, put them on different places, and then traction and see if you can feel where the restriction is. Just a little bonus to help you figure out where you can feel restrictions in the dural tube. So that's a little bit on the occiput today. I am Mindy Totten for bodyworkmastery.com. We've got lots of support programs for bodywork therapists. You can check us out at bodyworkmastery.com. Please feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have you. Welcome aboard. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Mindy Totten, wishing you love, joy, and a wonderful journey.